And if it's what's up, everyone? We're recording. Look, just real quick. Hello, everyone. Here's my little intro right here. And welcome back to Elevating Beyond with a 2-word mission statement: change lives. And I'm here with my man. I always screw up every name, but I think I got Phil.
Yeah, Phil Daru.
Phil Daru.
Yeah, I mean, people say Daru.
That's exactly how I would have said it.
Yeah, it's actually pronounced that way. There's a D-A capital R-U in there, but I just put it right to the lowercase just because people were getting confused.
So Phil, and we'll just get it right in. I'll start. I even want to continue our conversation.
Yep.
We're getting into so much awesome stuff. I'm like, got to remember to hit record. Yeah. But former MMA fighter, I have a clip that I'm going to, Carl, if you're listening to this, I'm going to try to do screen share without you, man. I have your clip on IG of you guys fighting.
Yeah.
But owner now, founder of DSP Gym. Mm-hmm. And so, like, we're going to talk crazy backstory. Mm-hmm. Freaking arms are as big as my head.
Nah, they're not that big.
Super nice guy. Super good guy.
You got a big head, man. I'm just kidding.
And, I got to say this, too, because I even remember after I met you at our guy, Billy, who was recently on the show at his house, I was looking your stuff up and even saw like a clip of Joe Rogan talking about you. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know who Joe Rogan was till a few years ago.
Wow.
Love him. Super awesome. I haven't met him yet, but
yeah,
connected with a lot of, it's just genuine is, I don't know how people couldn't respect him, but he knows way more about MMA than I do. And I heard him with a fighter mentioning you, and I heard out of his mouth, like, Anton, man, add this in. This will be in the show, but you should clip in Joe Rogan talking about him right now. But he's like, Phil's the real deal, like as a fighter and a trainer. And I thought that was cool because he doesn't say that lightly.
No, Joe's highly respected in the MMA world. And obviously he's a UFC commentator. He's been there since the beginning. So it was cool. And then the fighter that you're talking about is Dustin Poirier. He's one of my guys that I started with when I started coaching MMA full time as far as a strength conditioning coach. But that's one of my main guys. So it was good to see that
you train.
It was good to see that, but it was more so that he enjoyed the process of me training him. See what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, we want to always have the ability to connect with our people that we work with. And so from him saying that allowed me to be like, okay, that was a good feeling overall. I knew how he felt, but him stating that at that level with, on that platform.
Yeah. Cool. So just like everyone listening to and watching, he was on Joe Rogan's show as a guest and then went out of his way, because you don't do that when you don't mean it, to mention, he's like, I got to give a shout out to my trainer, mention Phil. And Joe Rogan's like, oh, dude, I've heard you're not the first one. Like, he's the real deal.
Yeah, I actually been able to train well over, I want to say now 200 UFC fighters within a span of 7 years or so.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, man, that's crazy. That's amazing. I want to talk about some stuff about your past and some of the things you went through, and from MMA fighting to starting your own company, because it's so cool. There's a thing of being like a trainer, but then when you become like a businessman at a level where you start having team members work for you, that's like the next level of business that takes a whole other mental everything, dude. Like, you could be the biggest badass in the ring, and I can't relate. Trust me, I'm not even gonna act like I could. I got nothing but respect after watching that. I mean, you saw my GL mugshot. I've been in some stuff, but not totally by choice under this. That's another level. But it's crazy because having a company and stuff, you could go in the ring and fight, but you may be avoiding a talk that you need to have with like a team member that you're having some conflict with. It's maybe like gossiping or something. Isn't it kind of crazy how you could go in the ring and fight, but you may avoid having that like conversation?
Yeah, I think that has to do with the individual itself, and if they're comfortable having conversations that may potentially start an argument, may potentially start something that you have to finish as a leader, you know. And learning how to communicate is the most beneficial thing that you can learn as a leader and as a boss, if you want to call it that. But somebody who runs their own business, this is something that you need to understand. As a coach, as a trainer, as a teacher, communication is key. So learning that is the process that we've all have to understand in order to level up and, you know, scale the business as it needs to be.
So weighing out, like, times it is kind of similar to training. Times when you got to be like real, like, hey, this has to change. If you don't do this or cut this weight or work this much more, you're like, this is real talk. You're not going to win. But also pushing in the praise and also knowing people's self-esteem. And but with team members, you know, then there's times when I've had people that were nice, but weren't good at the job, and at a point sometimes waited way too long and lost good people.
Yeah, that happens.
Learning that lesson the long way. Like, that's why I have a book now, not because I perfectly knew it. Is like, I learned by crap. Now I learned how to do it by not doing it. But like, getting rid of people and knowing when to fire them, even when they're good people, is a part of leadership. And you can sometimes have the perfect communication, and it's still, I've had people write it's been even thank you notes that we fired, because later on they're like, you kept telling me if I was going to be late, because we drive routes, we do transportation for disabilities. If you're late, it throws everyone off. They're like, it made me realize for my next job, like, I needed to grow up. And the letter came like 2 years later, but I've had not thank you letters come. I've had a false civil lawsuit. Yeah. I've had a time where we had to almost call the cops. So like,
been there.
It can get, you know what I mean? Like,
no, it can get crazy, but the thing is that you're grounded and you know your purpose. So that helps a lot. And I think also when you're dealing with people, the best teacher is experience. In all things in life, it really is just how to go through it. And you can learn by many different ways, obviously reading, studying, mentorship, but at the end of the day, you have to go through it.
Right.
So it's just like fighting. Like I can train and I can hit pads and I can hit the bag and I can spar a little bit, but you're really never going to get better as a fighter, as a professional, or wherever, as a competitor without going in there and actually fighting for real. And so you need to have those particular conversations every day so that you can get better at them and have proper communication skills so that things will go better.
And letting everyone know, like, going in the ring and stuff means you're going to get punched in the face. So going in there and doing that, I'm just talking to so many like business owners, entrepreneurs and stuff that listen, that they feel like they're all alone in this too. And it's like, when you say experience, it doesn't mean you perfectly, sometimes, dude, there's times where I've like lost my temper in front of the whole team and called someone out. And then I realized, like, one of our things is the golden rule, like do unto others as you would have done unto you. I went in my office, I chilled out, and I'm like, man, I was being like I always say, a boss, not a leader. I was being a prick. And even though the person was in the wrong, I was wrong for our, every place has their own culture, for the way we do our stuff, to call him out. It wasn't enough of an emergency, like respect-wise. So I actually made sure that I apologized to him in front of the whole team, so they all saw when they were there. But I remember part of my ego and stuff's like, dude, don't do that. That's going to make you look weak. That's going to, and it's like, it was the opposite. People started respecting me more because they were like, you actually came back and apologized and
showed humility
and cared. Yeah. And then it doesn't mean he ended up not working out with him, but that probably didn't help things. And so now, like, I teach all my leaders, hey, just pull them in one-on-one, have a quick conversation. It's like, some places don't think to do. So I'm just telling people listening with the communication and stuff, the experience, you'll screw up, but when you just try not to keep making the same mistakes twice is the key.
Yeah, that also with you understanding the person too as well. So we use,
Good point.
for me personally, I'll use a personality trait test.
Which one?
So I'll use a Big 5.
Okay.
And then also use Braverman's, which is a neurotransmitter dominance test. And I actually use this with my athletes too as well. So I can connect the neurotransmitter dominance to actual personality traits and draw a factor analysis between the two. So now with the Big 5, I'm looking at, are they conscientious? Are they open? Things like that.
Yeah.
Neuroticism is key, right? So if they're highly neurotic, then we have to back off on, too much of trying to reprimand them all the time. Make sure that they understand that they have a place here. Give them more constructive criticism that is going to be beneficial for them, and give them some praise along that same line. Right. The people that are open, I know that I can throw new things at them. The people that are more conscientious, I know that they need to have a structured system. I know that they need to know their KPIs. They need to know what they need to hit on a daily basis.
Okay.
A lot of the younger guys too as well that work with me, I got a lot of young trainers. So making sure that they're on point and having a schedule is important, because they don't know how to schedule themselves just yet.
Right.
So I like that. When it comes down to...
So it's mentor. No, but this is why I love this, Phil, because I've had, whether it's was the founder of Orlando Magic, having him on and talking about how he started leadership from my dude that sold the Fortune 100 company that was in tech, totally. But the same stuff applies across the board. Everyone may do it a different way.
Yeah.
We do, it's called the DISC test for personalities.
Okay.
But
I've heard of that before.
And a lot of it is just getting to really know people, and you can start to wire that together too. Yeah, the DISC has been a really cool one. It's really simple.
Yeah.
But it sounds sort of similar. It has the quadrants. It's not the exact same words, but the high C's more more organized, more, you'd imagine them as an accountant. They love spreadsheets.
Yeah, they're your bookkeepers.
Yeah, but they're really hard with when they've done something wrong, correcting them. So it's almost you've got an extra walk.
Gotcha.
We have a thing with our team. We don't do the whole eggshell thing with anyone, because we're not doing that. But like you said, you've got to be more conscientious of that with them. Yeah. But also there's a point in time where we all have to be grown-ups and adults, and you can't perfectly, but knowing the person out, I could see, it's cool thinking how that intertwines in what makes you a really good trainer, because you're already tapping into each person's different personality, which is so key of what you're working with, and also training them, because you could just have the regimen alone, but that's not teaching the mindset part and the connection. You mind if I move this over real quick?
Yeah, it's getting static.
Yeah. You know the game.
The main thing is allowing them to buy into the situation, right? So whether that be somebody who's working for you, one of your employees, one of your coaches, like for me, or one of the people that you're actually trying to serve, right? So they have to buy into the situation, and the only way they can do that is to understand who you are as an individual, and then that you can properly relate over information that is going to allow them to progress.
Right.
So that's really what I love to do in the beginning stages of the actual training sessions, even in the beginning stages of our camp. So if we have a fighter that comes in, and I'm talking fighters, but this could be for anybody, it could be regular clients, if there is any coaches out there listening, or any coaches, not even in the fitness world, if you're financial advisor, whatever.
Right. Any leadership
qualities that relies on coaching. You want to sit them down and have a full-on assessment with them, and go over any details that they want to go over, and then some things that are going to help you understand who they are and what place they're in, what their goals are, what their vision is, and then from there you can properly program, a systematic approach to get to that goal or to get to those visions that you can see yourself in.
I love that. And at the next level, actually, no, let me backtrack it. It's not like any of my stuff freaking goes, everyone knows, in perfect order. ADD, I'll just start talking about the eagle over there from Sierra Leone, West Africa, hand carved. Actually is. But anyway, God, I really did that, and then I lost my train of thought. That's the thing. We don't edit any crap out. It's people just.
Well, let me ask you this: what was your hardest conversation you've had with an employee?
I was going to bring you back to get in trouble too. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for this. My man has his show, and I'll be excited to be on it too, because this is the stuff I love doing. Oh God, to narrow it down to one.
You don't have to name names, obviously.
No, I never do. I mean, I've got a book on. I'm as transparent without naming names. I'm just thinking we've been through every freaking thing. One of them was a team member. Well, we had one that wasn't hard, but what happened after was we found out she was stealing money from our clients with disabilities.
Wow.
And immediately, yeah. Then she did a no call, no show. And then we're like, okay, you're going to be fired. But in the meantime, she went and did a civil suit. And in Ohio, the law is if someone does a civil suit on you, even if you're not guilty, you have to prove yourself innocent.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually need to go to court. It got dismissed. But what my employment lawyer told me, because I'm like, I can't let her back in the building. We have on video her literally stealing money from our client. And they're like, yeah, but you got this letter that's a civil suit. So if you fire her, they could look at that as you're retaliating against the civil suit, which becomes a whole other. And we were small then, Phil. We were like maybe 7. It's not super small to have 7, but like 5 to 7 team members.
Yeah.
I mean, like our payroll now is I have to have like 80,000 in the account just to meet biweekly payroll, at least minimum, not even including, but back then we had to have like 10, 15,000 in the account. Yeah. So to hire a lawyer to you know how you start, you're just scraping.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, dude, another lawsuit. And that was where I learned like the whole don't make decisions based off of fear, because I realized, I thought about it, kept me up all night. And I'm like, I can't let her back in. We have proof of her stealing. Like my why, you talk about why, it's for our clients with disabilities.
Yeah.
A lot of them can't have full speech. They need full assistance eating. They can't advocate for their money. And I'm like, I can't let this freaking person back into our building knowing she's doing this. And the clients we serve, out of fear that she's going to double sue us for something that we're not guilty of. Yeah. But even my lawyer was like, you shouldn't do this. But my lawyer was only thinking, that's why I always tell people, like, the experts don't know everything about, it's your company. You got to do what's best. So I'm like, thanks for the advice. She's still fired. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I'll fight that. Like, we're not going to let her back. I'm not, have her come in knowing she's walking on eggshells, like dictating our company. We're not doing that. But it was a long process of like 8 months, still paying the lawyer, cost tons of money. And we won. Like it got dismissed at the end.
Yeah.
We met with her and the lawyer, and it was going to be, it didn't make it to a judge yet. We were all in a room. The more she talked, the crazier she sounded. So I was able to kind of sit back. Yeah, by the time the thing was done, she was like yelling and cussing everyone. I'm like, thank you, God. They saw. But it got
let
dismissed.
them dig their own hole, man. Honestly, that's really what happens, you know?
Yeah.
But especially with the lawsuits, it's like sometimes you got to let it play out to a degree, and then it may take longer than you think.
Right.
But in the end, you know, if from right from wrong, like, and obviously you have to cover your ass in a lot of ways.
Right.
You know, and you want to have good representation.
Yeah.
Good lawyer. You know, but then if you know you're right, at the end of the day, you just ride it out as long as you have the funds to do so. Remember, you don't go to war without some proper funds. So make sure you have the money and you're ready to go. But other than that, at the end of the day, you might win overall. And so you have to be patient in that perspective. It's a game of war at the end of the day. Lawsuits are all like that.
It was, and it taught me that valuable. And now we talk about it all. I teach my other leaders, and I use that not to make decisions based off fear. And I'm like, I don't mean you won't feel fear, but get the facts. And there's times where I've had other small lawsuits, and I'm like, we're actually going to We don't get sued left and right, by the way, for like, there's not crazy stuff, but just stupid, petty one with like a HVAC. There's some where I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time and energy. Yeah. We're just going to pay that because that's not even a good investment of time and energy. But I didn't do it off of fear. I always look at the one question I've learned to ask is like not what's best for Mark, not what's best for our team, but what's best for Dream Shine.
Sure.
And then everything umbrellas under that. But it's not, dude, it's hard when you're going through some of that stuff though, man.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about fear. I think that fear, as long as you understand the process and you're knowledgeable, fear is a feeling, right? So like the only way to let go of that fear is to have knowledge of the situation. Right. So like true. When you look at it, I'll take it back to my perspective of even when I played college football and going into fighting and then, you know, powerlifting and doing all these physical things that could imply some fear into someone or relay some fear into someone, I should say. The thing is that you have to know what you need to do in that particular time frame, right? So when you have the understanding of the process, you know exactly what comes of certain circumstances that may come arise as you go through this situation.
Right.
The fear is lessened.
But when you're doing it at the beginning, at first you could have all the training, but then some new thing that you didn't prepare for can blindside you. But from what you're saying, and I'm understanding, it's like as you do it more and more, the fear, it's like your confidence and stuff it's like a muscle. Yeah. It builds up.
Yeah. It's a choice. Fear is a choice. So like every time that's why I said experience is the best learning.
So true.
So when you do this over and over again, not to say that you should get sued over and over again or go through lawsuits over and over again, but
no.
But going through,
I don't even need a lawyer then if it happened again. I went through all this. I'm like, we wouldn't even need a lawyer unless it actually went this. Yeah. I studied that process. Yeah. I could have done 4 letters and saved 25 grand.
Exactly. Because you went through the experience.
Yeah. Sorry,
less money. No, it's cool. It's less money, less fear of the unknown because you know exactly what's going to happen. It's like going up on a roller coaster for the first time. Like, right. As a kid, you're like, oh shit, like this is but then you know exactly that same roller coaster. You go over on it over and over and over again. We live in Florida, so we have Orlando, we have the Universal Studios, all that. Yeah. So like my kids now, when they first went up there, you know, my son's 8 years old. He went on his first roller coaster ride. It was scary for him. Yeah. But then we went on it again and again and again. And then by the 3rd or 4th time, it wasn't even anything for him. It was just like another walk in the park. So when I saw that, I said, okay, experience is the best way to nullify fear. Yeah,
it's crazy because you learn fear and excitement can feel a lot like the butterflies.
You got to know how to distinguish the two.
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of like I'm excited to go on this roller coaster and I'm scared, but...
But that's where you take fear and turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the same thing when you go to fight. Like, they close a cage door. I think excitement allows you to hone in on the details, where fear kind of grips you and it takes you away from the task. So when you're I'm excited about this situation, but I'm still in it. Where fear can take you away from the actual goal. Fear can take you away from the game plan. Yeah. Because it'll negatively affect everything inside of your brain to not allow you to go through what you need to do to be successful in that particular endeavor.
But in a way, because when people say like, I don't have fear anymore, I'm like, it doesn't just disappear. I think you learn how to use it differently, maybe.
I think they understand that the danger is still there.
Right.
So it's still there as in, okay, this is a dangerous situation, but I'm able to cope with that dangerous situation and not allow it to be a negative, right? And be able to still work the things that I need to work. I've had conversations with Navy SEALs, very close with Eddie Gallagher, one of the major key guys in the Navy SEALs. And, you know, he's had over, I think it was, don't quote me on this, but it's like over 9 tours.
Wow.
You know, so that's a lot of time in war.
Right.
So he was talking about something in the limbic system, or what we call the reptilian brain. And when it happens is they don't really think, they just go, right? So it's a reactionary component to a fearful situation, it doesn't become fear at that point. It becomes, what do I need to do to get the task done?
Yeah.
Right. So now as the experience, obviously goes and you're doing this over and over again, then you become more of a reactionary person as opposed to letting fear stop you from doing what you need to do.
That makes so much sense. And it's almost like, from what you keep saying, experience, which I preach on all the time.
And it's lizard brain. I want to make sure we get that right. Lizard brain.
Lizard brain. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's more of the next level of understanding what fear is, that it's not a fight or flight, but knowing the danger is real. Because if someone's like, I'm going into war tomorrow, I'm not the least bit fear. I feel it's all roses and sunshine. There's nothing to be worried. I'd be like, I don't know if I want you to lead me out there. Mm-hmm. But if it's like they're going in confidently, like, no, the danger's real. We can die.
Yes.
And I'm not excited about that. Like, that's scary.
Exactly.
But we're prepared. We're going to go there and hear. That's like two different mindsets. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. When they're acting of such, that means that they haven't had the experience at all of the situation.
Yeah.
So it is good to have, when we say fear, it's an understanding of the situation. Whereas then when they get in that particular situation over and over again, then they become more of a conscious competence. And then there's a learning process that goes about. So like when I used to train pretty regularly, obviously 2 times, 3 times a day when I was fighting, there was times where like you knew what you didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know.
Yeah.
Right? In the beginning. Then you knew what you didn't know. Then you knew what you needed to know. And then you would just unconsciously know what needs to happen when something happens. So we call it unconscious competence. When you have that, you become a master.
I like that. Unconscious competence. That's a good word.
So that comes with experience. So when I know exactly what I need to do just off a reaction.
From doing it over and over and over and over.
In certain situations too as well, because there could be many different situations that happen throughout, whether it be war, whether it be in a conference room, whether it be negotiations, whatever.
This is why I love this show, because everything, when it comes to like greatness and success, there's these foundational principles. I don't know if there's a book called Good to Great, and it kind of goes off what you were talking about, and it studied all these different business owners, successful people, like first person to summit Mount Everest. The ones that did it were the ones that they kept purposely exposing themselves to all different scenarios. And I say that with a business too. I'm like, I'm not being an optimist or a pessimist. I'm a realist. So when I'm like putting myself prepared, saying this could happen, I'm not being negative every day, like, oh, the world's going to end. But also, I'm like being strategic for, if this does happen, we'll have some type of preparation and we're not just blindsided. And those were the ones that won, like the one that did Mount Everest. They started training in the craziest conditions when they didn't need to be. And people are like, what are you doing? You don't need to be. I forget all the stuff they did, but they're like, it won't even be. But they're the ones that made it to the top, and the other ones died. Don't quote me on that. That might not be the actual facts, but it was similar.
It makes sense though, because they put themselves in uncomfortable situations on a daily basis, and that's one thing that I've realized is with a lot of people, even coaching people that are just regular. I'd say regular people, but people that don't compete at a high level or not athletes. Someone who just works a 9 to 5, or stays at home and takes care of the kids. I can push them in a certain way or any type of way. Like, it doesn't matter, just me, it's anything. If they go through uncomfortable situations on a daily basis, it doesn't have to be big. It could be something like take a cold shower or wake up early. Do something that's going to make you uncomfortable, because then it allows you to know how that feels, and then you get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I know that's a cliche term nowadays, but
cliches, they become for a reason because they're true.
Super true. Yeah.
It's so true. It's like, but then when the next level becomes the new normal, then it's like, ooh, now out of your comfort zone became the new comfort zone. So now it's time to go to another level.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to that point where I stay into like, we call it the hurt locker. you know, and like you're comfortable being there. And then sometimes it could be detrimental to a degree because you can go there all the time and then your body, you know, you're fighting against your own body at that point. So you have to know when to taper it off. And that's where like somebody that holds you accountable, that can structure things a little bit better. That's where I come in.
Right.
Because my fighters know how to get uncomfortable and know how to stay there. Right. They know, and they feel indifferent if they do not get to that position. Right. But that doesn't allow us, and I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here now at this point.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because in some cases with these individuals, I have to pull them back. Right. They don't need to be motivated, you know, in those ways. They need to be almost taken away from that situation and allow their body and their physiology to adapt with stress and then recover, stress and then recover. But if you're always stress, you're going to burn yourself out. So there is a fine line and there's a balance that you need to have. And I hate to say the word balance, especially for people that are in business. I get what you mean, though.
I get what you mean.
But
there is.
There is.
Everything, I always say, for everything I say, I can contradict myself. And by the way, I'm telling the truth on both of them. Because you need balance, but then there's no such thing as perfect balance.
Yeah.
But you also, it's like, I talk about family, business, kids. I'm like, if you're with your wife and kids all the time and you have a company, your company's going to go bankrupt. If you're only working on your company 1 million hours a week and you don't ever see your wife and kids, your marriage is going to go bankrupt. But there's seasons where, dude, our business is going up, because I get sick of some of the posts. I get it and I love it, but there'll be these videos of like, the kid will be playing basketball. He's like, Dad, can you shoot with me? He's like, I got to fly off. I've got a meeting. And then the kid's like, oh, and then it'll be like, time flies. So, but I'm like, I get the point of that. But on the flip side, there's times where I got to be like, I love you, son. No, I've got a meeting.
Exactly.
How do you think we're paying for the basketball hoop, the nice school?
Exactly.
That's not all that matters, but there is a balance. It's like, I could stay with you, then we'll lose the whole contract, lose the thing. Then you're going to see a whole other level of stressed out daddy that video doesn't show. And I'm like, that's just too fake. That's like the fake balance that we're not talking about.
Yeah. You know,
you know what I mean?
It definitely is. There's light and darkness, yin and yang, you know, everything, cold and hot, all of that. And that's true. But you know what it is that people have to figure out the times when you can, because we both have kids.
Like, absolutely. And kids are so important, of course, too.
Especially in the beginning stages, because that's what they see is time. They don't really know about the money and the things that we do on the other side to help them get to where they 100%. Need to be. But they worry about, okay, is he here though? Is he present or is she present? And so for that, whenever I am there, I make it a point to be present when I have the ability to do so. But I want him to see, as I have a son, I have 8-year-old.
Yeah. And I got you.
I want him to see that I am going and taking care of business because that's the way of a superior man.
Right.
So with that, he has to see that because he's going to be in that position at one point in his life.
Yes. No, I agree. It's like, when you're in the time, there's times I've learned I'll even put my phone like literally in airplane mode. Yeah. So nothing can. But dude, there's times where I'll be like texting and I'm like, oh crap, I need to get off. I'm acting annoyed by my kid. I shouldn't be working right now.
Sure.
But there's seasons where like I'll have a book launch and it's like, I'll meet with my wife. I'll be like, hey, for these next 2 months, it's going to be crazy. I'm going to be, but we'll agree, but there's an end time.
Sure.
So we hold each other accountable. And then she'll be like, Mark, that was supposed to end then. I'm like, oh yeah. And then based on the maturity level of the kids, we'll even talk about it. But all that matters is you keep caring and wanting to get better, because people get so stuck, all of us, and feel like I'm failing. And it's like, you're never going to be perfect at it. And it's always going to change. But as long as you're intentionally knowing you need to spend time on all of them.
What do you think what's your definition of failing though?
That's a great question too. It's not, true definition of failure and not the like fail forward, because totally learning from, like, to use the analogy of fighting, like getting in the ring in losing, I don't look at that. I couldn't be like, dude, you're a fail. I look at that as that person got in the ring and they tried. And I look at that as amazing. And I'm only using this as an analogy from someone that doesn't fight and don't like choke me out or something. But like failing would be, say you were my coach and you were like, okay, Mark, this dude we're fighting. I don't even know any term about it. When you come in for the first 10 seconds, for some reason, like he closes his eyes and meditates, punch him right in the nose. You know to do that. I'm making just a total random, easy analogy up. That would be the dumbest thing ever. No, but I get what you're saying. But I go in there and he's just standing there meditating, and I just like punch him in the leg or something, and don't even hit him at all in the nose. When I flat out knew to do that would be. But then I go in, then you're like, dude, okay, then you go in and like repeat the same mistake over, you know, same with like cheating on your spouse or something. Sure. It's like everyone goes through shit in their marriages. Yeah. But when you're like, oh my God, forgive me, then you go out a week later and do it. Yeah. Then a week. That's what I look at more as failure. When you know it's wrong, you've done wrong, and you keep repeating the same mistakes. That may be an easier analogy. That's a good answer. Because any MMA fighter and stuff is like, dude, that guy obviously, what is he talking about?
No, it makes sense though, because at the end of the day, we have to, if you failed at the approach of the game plan, then ultimately, for the most part, you could potentially lose the fight. Now, I've lost plenty of fights, and I've also won some fights. And I would say that the one thing that I had the problem with, what I failed at, was monitoring and managing my time appropriately back when I was in my 20s. So my focus was spread too thin. It was all over the place. And so for that, I would lose fights that I should have won because my focus wasn't there. I just opened my gym. I was 22 years old. I had my own business. I had 7 trainers training under me.
So you were starting your company and fighting still?
Yeah, I was fighting pretty much at the same time because I needed to make money. So like I would train people pretty much from 5 a.m. to about 10. Then I would go do practice. Then I would train myself. Like I'd practice, I'd do some strength and conditioning. I'd train probably 1 or 2 other clients at night, and then I would go and train at the night class. And in MMA, you have classes.
Yeah,
so like
you
would do like group training, and then you have like one-on-ones, or you get your boys together and do sparring or whatever. But for the most part, it was all in classes. So after that, I decided I was paying too much attention to just training just one-on-ones. I could do groups, and this is when boot camps started to become more popular.
Okay.
And then I started doing boot camps, but the main thing was like I was paying a lot in rent for another gym that I was a part of. At that point, I was like, doesn't make any sense. I just might as well open up my own gym. Didn't realize that it took more than me just opening up a place to train people at.
Right.
So then all the business side just overwhelmed me in a sense at 22 years old with no business background. I'm only have a fitness background.
Sure.
Strength and conditioning background. So,
sure.
You know, I've obviously understood the value that I was giving. I knew how to create or to give a great service. But as far as like bookkeeping and just everything that comes with the day-to-day business process, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So then on top of that, I'm also trying to get ready for fights. Right? I'm trying to get ready for professional fights too as well. And I can say this right now, none of my fights has ever been easy. So, I mean, I've always had to train appropriately. And,
right.
And for the most part, a lot of my time was getting, spread too thin because I had so many things going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but when you learn from it, like that's where I don't call it a failure, is because we're constantly assessing. When you're able to, it sucks, it's not fun, but when you're able to be like, oh, that's why this was causing.
Yeah. Well, you have to identify it first.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Like,
so were you able to, like, when were you able to start identifying that?
I identified it my tailor end of the career where I was 24, 25. And I started to accumulate concussions and get just injured at that point. And that's from football and everything else. And that's another story. But, I've had that. I said this story many times. What I can say is that at the end of my career, I started to to delegate and compartmentalize what I needed to do on a daily basis. So like I knew exactly that I wasn't going to be able to run, you know, a 5 a.m. class, a 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. class, and another 5 p.m. class, and then try to train in between.
Right.
It just wasn't going to happen. So then I would delegate my classes off to all my other trainers, and then allowed me some time to recover, to train 2 or 3 times a day, and also be able to still make a little bit of money, but I was able to just fall back and let them handle the day-to-day process where I would run the business, and that's not as physical. It's very mental.
Sure.
It's less physically demanding. Now, with that, I ended up winning my last fight, which was cool. I didn't know it was going to be my last fight, obviously, but I went out victorious in a sense, right?
Yeah.
With a win, you know?
Yeah.
Good for me, whatever.
No,
but
that's
at the end of the
awesome.
day, it's like, did I want to do more? Absolutely. Will I ever get back in there? Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. I
heard
mean,
that.
it may not
You
be
heard it
MMA.
maybe.
It may not be MMA. It might be boxing because there's just so many variables in MMA. Who knows? But, you know, I'm 34. I have some injuries. I still have, you know, everything. Everybody has injuries in this sport. But, you know, whatever. And at the end of the day, I learned throughout that process to, like, always make sure that you have a focus point. And then after that, when I retired, I went full in, all, you know, tunnel vision focus on bodybuilding for a little bit because I had to build up my body. And then after that, when I was done with bodybuilding and I was like, you know what, this isn't for me, I went all in on powerlifting. Started learning more about powerlifting.
Okay.
So these sports that I was able to partake in.
While were you still running the gym and stuff while you were doing all those things?
Yeah. So at this point, there was a transition phase. So I was bodybuilding. I still had the gym, but it went hand in hand. So I didn't really have to, like, I would go to the gym that I ran and I was able to train there.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, oh, I had to run over to the MMA gym. I have to run over to another jiu-jitsu gym. And back then, especially up where I'm at, there wasn't like a major gym or headquarters. And I would come down to a major gym like ATT to train periodically. But where I was, there wasn't that. And then for a lot of MMA fighters, there isn't that. Still, you have to go to multiple different gyms. So there was a lot of travel going on. Now with
that's what makes you guys specialized from going to your place, like, and seeing it. So I went and got to see, even just for the small time, and I could see how you're like, yeah, Mark, we already got this building next to us. We're going to open this. We're also going to have specialized massage. So it's like an all-in-one where different varieties of people could come in instead of having to go. It's kind of cool because that's where everything's created, through problems that we face. You create the solutions to where someone could come. But sorry, go ahead.
No, and that's funny because I've seen a lot of those problems, and that's why I was like, we have to have an all-in-one, and that's why, like, it's perfect, makes perfect sense now.
Yeah,
you know. So I was like, you know what, I'd rather have a space where these guys can go and get their strength and conditioning, but then on the other side, go get recovery. You know, and then maybe hit the bag or something like that if they need to, or roll. And, you know, we got the mats, we can roll out, whatever, you know. And we have 2 major gyms in the area, right? We're in South Florida, so we have American Top Team. We have Kill Cliff. Those are 2 major gyms for MMA. One is directly across the street from me, and the other one's down the street. So I put myself in central areas for them.
Oh,
right?
nice.
Now, that's not just for MMA guys. We do have a large amount of boxers. I have NBA guys, you know, things like that.
I was going to say, even, like, wasn't, I looked on a build, like the SWAT team, or you do something with like the police.
Yep. So we have the county sheriff's SWAT team, and we also have the local PD too as well.
Is that like, do they do like a contract? I'm just interested in the business side too. Do they have like a contractual fee with you, or is it like group class rates?
It's group class rates, and then we're in the process of doing something big with the entire sheriff's office.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I could see what would be cool is like some of the leadership speaking and stuff I've done where I'm really breaking down, dealing with like conflict, delegate, all the stuff, but then also mixing in some other like stuff like MMA where you get people doing like out of their, like, because the owner, like you said, out of your comfort zone. But what's cool is the experience unifies the whole team on the company when they see the CEO or the owner too, like wobbling around doing this thing, like that would be a cool experience.
No, I always stay active. You know, you have to stay active as long as you're not hurting yourself or any dumb stuff like that. But yeah, you stay active so that people know that you're still in it. So my fighters love, like when I put up old posts of me fighting, they love seeing that, and for the fact that they know that I've been in it. So there's a connection there.
Facts.
You know,
the respect. There's respect because
it doesn't have to be fighting though. As long as you're competing in something, you know, that's what it is. Because I remember Edson Barbosa is was one of my main guys, and Edson Barbosa is like,
was that
killer.
that recent post, the one that if I don't screw it up, I have it. Let me actually see. All right, Carl, testing it out. If you're watching this. Oh, it's not even live stream, but when you do, no, see, just made us smaller.
Oh yeah, the YouTube clips. Yeah.
I think it was from your Instagram.
Yeah, that was a clips of a YouTube fight that I had, or fight that was on YouTube.
Oh,
don't get it twisted. Not doing influencer fights.
No, it wasn't. Man, this is would you consider this a failure? It's playing on double, but I don't care.
I mean,
people can see. I'm just joking.
I would say this.
But
I lost this fight. Right?
I was gonna ask.
I lost this fight.
So
I lost a split, or it actually was I don't know if it was a split or unanimous decision, but it was definitely closer than we both expected.
Dude,
I almost got this triangle right here, which was crazy because I never throw up any submissions, which I was like, I can't believe I almost got this. But at this point, we were going at it for 2 rounds at this point, and I was exhausted. He was exhausted.
What
the weight cut wasn't my issue; it was more his issue. He came in about 3 to 4 pounds heavier, which is crazy in MMA. And we just took, you know, and at that point I was just like, I just want to fight. So
what do you think when you watch this? So Ted, if you're listening, you can't see this, go to YouTube and watch it because we're growing the YouTube channel. You better be anyway. But if you're listening, dude, you guys are just beating the crap. It looks like when you watch a really good movie and it's like they're like Rocky when they're like punched. Dude, you guys are beating the crap out. I'm like, dude, these are. I remember I saw this. I commented. I'm like, I don't know who won that, but I've got respect. For both of you guys.
I appreciate that
because
I'm actually gonna get Sock on. I'm gonna get him on the podcast actually.
What my question was first of all, hopefully this gets off the. Sweet. Hopefully I did that right. We'll see. But what my question was afterwards, or if it was the end, when you guys like shake hands and stuff, you could see that respect for each other. And dude, I'm so curious to know when you're going in there, you have to be like, I'm going in there to kill something in you. You can't be like, I respect my love, because then you're going to hold. I don't know because I haven't done it, but
I think it's the difference between respect and hatred. You know, like or let's say for instance, I want to win this fight. I respect you as a because you can respect an individual's abilities but still hate them as a person, right? And I've seen that too. I won't say hate. Hate's like a harsh word, but I would say dislike a person very much. Right, where you see like a lot of people dislike Conor McGregor, but you have to respect him for what he's done in the sport.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now, some people could say I don't respect him as a man, but I respect him as a competitor. I respect him as an MMA fighter, whatever, so on and so forth.
Sure.
Like with let's say for instance Floyd Mayweather. If you don't like him, you don't like his style, you don't like the way he acts, you don't like him as a person, but I respect him as a boxer because of what he's done in the game.
Yeah.
You have to do that. And there can be that disconnect there. At that point, you can draw the line. But when you go to fight, you have to have respect for the capabilities of that individual because you can go in there thinking that they're not physically or they're not capable. They're not an opponent that is worthy of you being in there with him. But then again, that could be a detriment, right? So they need to have that understanding that this person is capable of beating me, but I'm not going to let it happen.
Like, or even killing me. Like, isn't party... I'm not saying you're like, I want to go in there and murder this, but like part of you has to... Dude, that's some... dude, that's like the real deal, the MMA fighting. Like
I thought it was
something
gonna,
of you has to
honestly,
be.
in full transparency, I thought I was gonna die that fight. I thought it was gonna be over, and the reason why is because I couldn't see anything.
I don't need. Dude,
And it
that's
wasn't
what your
and
instincts
let me
and
tell you something,
training.
it wasn't because I was exhausted, and maybe it was, but I think it mainly was the fact that like, yeah, I got punched a bunch of times. I got hit a bunch of times. He got hit a bunch of times. I couldn't really understand where I was for I guess the second round on.
People
right?
don't dude, I only know from the minimum fights I've been in, and like when you get hit and you see like that white flash and stuff, it's so much different than the way.
There's a certain taste that you get. There's a certain feel that you get. There's a certain feeling. Like one of my main guys, Jake Boswick, he just said this recently because he's a bare knuckle fighter.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So he's one of the toughest guys in the world, right?
That is
so
true.
There's a certain taste, there's a certain feel, there's a certain, because when you get hit, your brain rattles, right? So now,
and it's like it's like you see that white,
and then you may go back into certain places in your life, right?
But you're still. That's what people don't It's like you're still like fight because people. I'm just talking from everyone else we're watching, and in our heads we're thinking. They're totally in the moment, and I'm sure sometimes, of course, you are.
Yeah.
But we're thinking you're seeing every punch, you're knowing what's going on. But dude, when you're getting punched and choked, and there's no blood in your head, like you're like half blacked out for some of it. Like that's the part people don't know.
Well, what I was gonna say was his last fight with bare knuckle BKFC. If you guys check it out, you can see it on. I think it's on YouTube. But his last fight, he got knocked down. And he looked fine. If you look at him, you would think, okay, he's good. But he was out. He didn't know where he was, right? So he got up, got his hands up, walked forward, but he didn't know where he was. You see what I'm saying? So, like, you can have a great poker face.
It's like sleepwalking.
Still be able to, and then for that particular, the reason why I put that particular fight up, one is because that's one of the only fights that I have online. But the main thing is that fight was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to go through. And I have gone through some situations, right, where I'm facing 60 years in prison, all that other shit.
Yeah.
And this was up there, right? And like I've had to deal with both my parents dying, like, but
I didn't know
physically,
both your parents were dead.
Yeah, both of them died through, circumstances like medical issues, things like that.
Okay.
And back to back. But like to deal with that in that way, that was more an emotional thing. This was more of a physical, psychological thing. Where it's like I had family there at that. This fight was in Tampa. It was one of the biggest cards. There was over, I think there was 8 UFC fighters on that card.
Wow.
Like future UFC fighters. And so it was a big event. I think we got fight of the night too as well. We should have at least. But
dude, that clip is insane. I'm
21 years old.
I'm not just saying that because I know you too. I was like, that came across, and I'm like, wait, is that Phil?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I was already just gonna show some, but then I'm like, holy shit! Yeah. Like they are going. I'm like,
I wish I had more fights, man. I wish I could, show more fights. I've had some good ones, but either way, like I think that what that did right there was show. This is the reason why I'm saying this. That right there, going through that situation, proved to myself that I was capable of doing whatever it needs, whatever I need to do to win, right? Or whatever I need to do to get over, right? And I can handle any situation. Even if I don't technically win or, whatever, I'm not a failure because I never quit. And so when I did that, after that fight was over, I was pissed because I didn't win. And
I couldn't tell who, because it didn't show. Yeah.
Well, at the end of the fight, there's another clip that goes through it on YouTube. So if you watch the whole fight on YouTube. There's like round 1, round 2, round 3 on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's in Portuguese.
Oh, really?
So it's all in Portuguese.
But what you just said, I'm not a failure because I didn't quit. That
I went out
perfectly
on
sums up like what isn't failing. Like, remember when you asked me, how do you describe failure? It's it's almost easier on the other end to describe what failure isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, dude, it's another cliche, but I love it. Let's like never, never, never give. I have it right there from Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Dude, there's this thing about not quitting. That's what isn't failure to me. Yeah. And that's where I respect. I don't care what the person could be playing, like pickleballs, like we have our community called a huge, the person could never quit, give up on, or based on whatever situation they may hit it at 20 million. There's something about seeing a human being just never giving up. Like the movie Rudy we've seen. He wasn't the best, but dude, like he just kept.
Well, if you believe in something and it makes sense and it's something you've always wanted, you know, there's at certain times you have to know when to pivot to as well.
Fact. See, everything contradicts itself.
Contradicts. So that's why I wanted to make
Don't give up, but there are times when to give up.
Because I mean,
like give up to go up.
Exactly. Yeah. There might be times where you got, and this
so
is
true.
And this is the thing with the fighting. Like, yeah, I could have possibly tried to keep going, but it would have been a detriment, right? So I would have had more concussions, and then I wouldn't have been able to grow the business that I've grown to have now. What would have happened? Right? I would have probably kept fighting and maybe gotten more injured, and then wouldn't have been able to help, you know, literally thousands of people. You know what I'm saying?
And what's cool is then you've got your other trainers. They're supporting them, so they're getting paid. They're getting livings from. They're getting fulfillment from it. That's I always respect business owners, small business owners, because they're the backbone, first of all, of America's economy. I just heard today it's like 54% of the gross domestic product is from not the Walmarts, it's small businesses. Yeah. So I'm all, like, everyone listening, like, I respect you, I love you, and it's a war. But what do you think you have that's in you? Is it like a gut or a transition where it's like, I shouldn't fight anymore, I need to keep focusing now, like that pivot?
It was a rough one, because
it can't be easy.
You look at something. So first, I had to stop playing football, which was a childhood dream of mine to play in the NFL. Right now, mind you, I'm 5'8", 205, so I'm probably not gonna make it that far, right? Or if anything, I'm gonna get injured in the process. Okay. Right now,
but what position were you playing in college?
I was playing strong safety.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I ran fast-ish. I'm 4'5", 4'6", 40, depending on the terrain. Yeah. Right. And then
I wouldn't want to run into you on the.
I appreciate it. Well, I got the concussions to prove that one too. You know? But I mean, and like, just at that point, I go, well, your body starts to break down, right? And then you get those concussions. I get pinched nerves. I still deal with it. I have no feeling in my index and my thumb.
Oh wow! Right now, from football.
Nerves. From football, and then obviously training, fighting, everything else. Like, this is now recent. Where I've felt this happen, where I have herniations in C5 through C7 in my vertebrae, and then roughly 8 or 9 concussions that I can count. God. Had an ACL tear, you know, so on and so forth. So there's been a lot, but that's kind of standard.
That's what's crazy to me is like, it's standard. Like, if you were, if all you guys were in a group right now, they'd be like, dude, I have 15 or 12 or 10.
Yeah, I'm probably low. I'm on the low end.
And I'm not even to you. I'm like, I think maybe I had one, but they couldn't prove it. The doctor was like, just be safe, stay awake. Sure. It was like falling off my bike it was nothing to compare. Yeah. Maybe the other one was when I was blacked out drunk, and I forgot about that. Woke up in my jail cell, fell into my body, thought I was dead for a while. Oh man, that was that was the real concussion I had. But anyway, that's another. I wasn't fighting back.
That was the awakening.
I was blacked out in my seat. Some 36-year-old just.
Damn.
I know, man. That judge tore into me. But again. Pivotal moment. Wasn't a moment, it was a process, but I'm so thankful, because I would be dead now.
You learn from it.
But that's different. You're playing football, so I didn't know your dream was to play football. Did you get in trouble facing the jail before the football?
16. So I was recruited. I was getting letters from Wisconsin, Michigan State,
Really?
Yeah, Rutgers. I was getting D1
Yeah.
letters basically since I was a freshman.
No way, dude. That's not easy.
Yeah, and we're in South Florida, so football is like a mecca. Like it is the mecca of high school football at least.
Yeah,
You know,
I lived in Columbus forever, dude.
You could say that too. You can make
State is
depending on I have a fighter from Ohio, and he's like, "Yo, we're the best," and I'm like, "Bro, shut up." Like
I wasn't born there, so I'm not obsessed. But I laugh when I moved there because I'm like, wait, is there a pro team? They're like, we don't. People would get pissed at me. They're like the Buckeyes.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, oh, I went to
That's
a game.
Columbus,
The stadium was like 100. Columbus, 120,000 people.
Yeah, no,
I'm like,
I mean
that's bigger than. Well, but anyway, going back
Ohio,
to you.
Ohio has the Browns and the Bengals and everything else. But
yeah, no, Columbus. I was talking about
for South Florida, the sport that we will play is football.
Right.
And you got guys playing baseball here and there, maybe a little bit of basketball, but we're not like Indiana or something like that where they love basketball or New York. Football is where it's at, and then we have a lot of fast, highly athletic people.
Yeah,
highly athletic kids, and so speed was the major driver. Where in Texas it's like size. In California they usually have a little bit of both, right? So, needless to say, like I fell in love with football. I was in martial arts as a kid since I was 4 years old.
Oh.
And then I transitioned into playing football by the time I was about 7, 8. I think I started playing in a team setting, organized football at 8 years old.
But you were in like the rough area. Weren't you living in like...
I grew up in Broward County. So like you look at several different areas in Broward County are pretty bad. There's some that are great.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to paint the picture for everyone.
So we had. I mean, yeah, it was pretty crime stricken. When I was a kid, my parents moved out. I was born in Maui, Hawaii, by the way.
Oh, no way.
So we moved away from there, and then moved to Hollywood, Florida. We were living in a motel for the first 2 or 3 years of my time in Florida. So from like 3 years old on the way to maybe 6 or 7. Then we moved into like a duplex in Dania Beach, which wasn't the greatest area either.
Yeah.
Then from there moved up to Coral Springs, which was actually better, but I was living in an apartment complex where, again, a lot of kids just getting into mischief, Then moved again to another city that wasn't the greatest, and then another city, and then another city, and then another city.
So you were switching schools each time?
I switched schools maybe like 6 or 7 times in elementary school.
Wow.
So like, and then in middle school, so on and so forth. So I've gone to a lot of different schools, but I've also had to adapt everywhere. I think that allowed me, it's a twofold, right? It's a good and a bad thing because I'm able to adapt, but I also have trouble staying in one place at one time for a long time.
Does that go with like relationships and stuff too?
Not so much. I've been with my wife for 10 years.
Oh, cool.
So
Congrats.
that's the only thing that's been like consistent along with me as a coach.
Okay.
So I've been a coach for 15 years, but it's location, right? It's experiences. Like I always want to do something different or new. And that may be transitioning, like even with MMA, it's not just MMA, it's combat sports entirely.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, I got NBA guys, I got some NFL guys, I have, I want to work with different individuals. I want to work with COs. I want to work with, these guys that are high level, but doing it differently, And then also, it comes down to the fact of I have to understand that when it's not the appropriate time to switch up, and when it's okay to do so. So that's the problem that I'm having. That's my dilemma.
Well, going back to balance, that's the truth about balance. Is it's also a problem that you have to constantly solve.
Yeah,
and sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times, it's like this isn't working out. But some things we do that people could be like, that's a crazy waste of energy. It's like, no, actually, the way I'm wired, I do need to do that other thing because that actually makes me more productive at this thing. Because but then on the other hand, and I'm wired like you too. Yeah. If I do 50 different things, then I can't be good at like the 4 main things. Yeah. But if I only do like the 1 or 2 main things, then after time, like I get 2 ants. So it's like I say it's like a tree. Like you spend years. That's why I do a dream shine, building that tree trunk.
Yeah.
And then starting to branch out to where if some of those branches break, like they're not enough to take down the whole tree. So that's what I kind of my like analogy for business is like try some other, like shoot bullets, but don't like launch the whole cannonball until you have something. But it's like you lose a couple branches, because some people are like, well, I should have a book. I should have I'm all about, of course, you got to be on social media and stuff these days.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I couldn't have written a book till, for me personally, till I was 7 years. I don't even live in the same state where my company is. People are like, I want to do that 6 months in. I'm like, no. Like, you got to go in the trenches, build it from the ground up.
Yeah.
But my point with that is like some of those branches are how we're wired, and that's okay. Yeah. But balance is a problem that we're constantly working on and solving. And there's different seasons of life where things change, and it's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking of it. I never really thought of it like that. You're going deep for a long period of time in order for you to grow a stable base.
Yes.
Right? And then from there, you branch out and try shit.
Yes.
You never know until you try it.
Yeah.
But you also have to have that base of that.
If the tree's this high and you try to branch out too quick, the whole thing's gonna cave in.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy, actually. That was a better analogy than the one before. No, but I think that and that's where I'm more. That's where the visionary comes in.
You could tell I know business better than MMA fighting.
That's it. The vision as a visionary, which you're a visionary, I believe. So if you, and we're less of an organizer per se. We're less of an operator.
Right.
We become that. Okay, I want to do this. Let's take the business here. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's try shit.
Yeah.
Whereas like an operator needs to be the one that goes, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's compartmentalize this. Let's organize it. Let's make sure that we are in the right place to do so. That's probably not a great idea, but you have like 80 ideas a week.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think a great book for anybody to, if they're in business, is Rocket Fuel. Is a good book to read, definitely. And for that, I would say, you have to separate. If you have a business partner and you are a visionary, you do not want to have two visionaries, as partners, because you guys are just going to be out there in the clouds. That's
like with a personality. Yep. I used to think I want everyone like me, and I'm like,
no.
Wait, no, I need the organized person to be doing. One thing we don't compromise is our core values. Mm-hmm. So everyone has to have our same core values, no matter what personality. Yep. It's like the goal, the things that we truly do. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't fit that, then those are things that can't be taught.
Yeah, true.
But the other things I learned, I don't want, if everyone's a visionary like me, they'll be like, we be doing 20 million.
Yeah.
We would do a lot of crazy one thing may change the whole world.
That one thing. But then like people don't know how to put it in the proper order.
It wouldn't be a systematic business.
Yes, you have to have the ability to do so, but it doesn't allow you to be free in what you're actually capable of doing, which is your strong suits. Then in the beginning of business, you always have to play multiple roles. There's a lot of carryover, and there's a lot of universal roles that need to be played in the beginning because you don't have the ability to pay anybody.
CEO, right? Chief everything officer.
You're everything.
When you're starting off, you're literally
marketer,
doing
everything. Yeah. But then when you get more in tune with what you're doing, you get a little bit more success, a little bit more money comes in.
Revenue,
you start bringing in these people that are like specialized in whatever it is, advertisement, operations,
yes,
human resources, whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
And then from there, that's how you start to scale. Another good book is Scaling Up. You read that before?
You know what's funny? I'll get asked these questions, and I'm like, I think so. And then I'll look at my old shows, and I'm like, not only did I read it, that person was on my show. All those books up there are people that have been on the show. But I don't know if I have. It kind of sounds like the E-Myth, like the old school version.
Similar. Yeah.
But scaling up, and I talk about like the levels of leadership, but with the E-Myth, it talks about working on your business and in it. And I'm like, that's so true. But you have to work in it to get for a long time, like building that tree till you can work on it. Then at times crap happens. You got to go back in.
Yep, that's true.
That's
true.
But no, anyway, like going back to that though.
That's when you become like, all right, so now you're the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, CTO, whatever.
I know,
is,
all
right?
these
all the damn
abbreviations.
abbreviations. But then you go, well, man, I'm not really a great CEO. And that's when the business becomes so big that you have to hire somebody in to be another basically owner in that sense, right? He's the head guy in charge, or she's the head girl in charge, and you're just the founder at that point, right? And then a lot of people don't know how to let that go. They don't know how to do that.
It's not easy.
Yeah, because they're letting go of their baby, right? The thing that they've grown to have, or to to develop this thing. It's similar to like, if for a child, it's like, all right, I've coached my son all these years. Now I'm giving him to his high school coach, and I gotta let that go because I can't be a coach. I have to be the father. See what I'm saying?
No, and also you don't. It's like a rope. Like you let it go, you release more slack. You release more slack. You still always have your hand on the end because it's your business, but. Because some people want to just, let me just delegate it all and do nothing, and they wonder why the whole thing caves in on itself. You just start solving the bigger problems and taking on the bigger visions. I have my weekly, but there's my head director that's been being groomed to the CEO that runs Dreamshine. That's been a 9-year process.
Sure. Yeah.
From starting in the trenches to we still meet every week. Teaching leadership and then learning to delegate not only the how, but then I started delegating my mindset to learn how to problem solve. But the next level of letting go was starting to delegate the vision.
Wow.
And it's crazy because I spent so much time, and I continually do, but as we were doing, like I was saying we were going to do a pirate ship building, Phil, for Dreamshine. Like 16 years ago, when people would literally would laugh at me. Like in that field, it was all and I'm like, no, dude, we're going to make it like Disney World, but it's going to be for people with disabilities. It's not going to have rides, but I want it to feel like they're at like a resort and make it amazing. Yeah. We're going to have like pirate ship buildings. People freaking, they laughed in my face. And we just finished the pirate ship building. But because I had delegated the vision so much to her, I was able to step back and like, she had the picture, but also with stepping back, they have to prove competency. So if you step back and they keep screwing up, you got to step in and be like, hey, learn this. But it was so crazy as I stepped back after continually teaching with competency, there's more trust. When we were in Africa, we need to go there for my wife's mom, but then there was some other stuff too. We're actually getting land there by the water, by the beach. Plan on doing specialized like summits there in the future. But anyway, that was like 2.5 weeks. We couldn't. I was all like, didn't even have service, literally off the grid.
I saw that. Yeah.
Well, not only this is years in, but this is the first time I spoke how everything got handled correctly while I was away, and I just needed to be. This time, I didn't really need to be contacted, and they added a whole new addition to one of our buildings without even. Other than like some of the budget stuff, didn't talk to me at all. I got back, she sent me videos, and I'm like, that's exactly what I said and better. I'm like, how did you? And I'm like, there's another level of delegating your vision, but it's weird because it's your baby.
Sure.
Then a part of you's like, wait, am I not am I not needed? But then it's like, dude, the more you grow yourself out, you're working on, you can use your things for other stuff, but it's a weird.
It's funny.
It's a weird feeling. It's a weird phase.
A weird feeling, but that's where you have to let go.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing that I talked about with your kids. Like you have to let go at some point.
Yeah.
And people don't want to do that. And if a business owner isn't capable of doing that, that could be a detriment, right? That business could go under because you're not allowing it to grow on its own.
Yeah.
And you have to get it there. Just like your child, you have to get it there. But once it's ready, and they have all the understanding in the world, and you have people in place that are going to help them along the way, you just got to let it go. You have the ability to come back when you need to.
Well, what's crazy is now I've been putting all the ability. I had to let the current accountant, there's even levels of that, to where we're at a level now where I had to meet with a neighbor. I work with a specialized tax strategist now, to where I'm opening another company here. Dude, I didn't go to business school or anything either. I learned all this. I didn't know what an S Corp, LL. Now I could teach the course on it. Experience, 16 years. Yeah. But now it's like opening a separate LLC, so I'm not paying Ohio taxes. That's for some of the real estate. That's a separate company that we're going to be buying to expand Dreamshine as like a real estate investment company. Then Dreamshine pays rent to it. It's a totally other. But I've been able to put all this time because I'm looking at different smart homes in a new community we're creating for people with disabilities. But I wouldn't have been able to focus on all that if I was still in all that. So it's not like you're not still, you're still involved in your mission and vision, but there's just different levels, different purposes. I'm preaching to myself even now too, because at the next level, I'm working with purchasing businesses and reselling them.
That's dope. Yeah.
Which is like, I'm still learning a lot on that, but it's weird to think of that because I'm like, how you can, because we've only done it from the ground up. So it's like,
well, and that's where it becomes a little bit more harder to let go, right?
Yeah.
And I think when somebody bootstraps a business or it's their idea, that's where it's hard for them to be like, you know what, I'm just going to let everybody else kind of take this over at this point. When you buy into like a franchise, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can do that. You build it up, boom, whatever, and then hand it off. But
you're not as attached as
like my business.
It is your baby.
My business is my name.
Exactly.
It literally is my name.
Yeah.
It's Daru Strong.
Yeah.
So like, it's going to be very hard, but I know that it's going to be necessary in the future. I'm going to definitely have to, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
Because if I'm going to I'm going to hand it over to somebody that I trust, and I know that's going to take care of it the way I would take care of it.
Yeah, it's actually a victory because the purpose of what you're doing, that's what you want it to outlive you and the people it's helping and your mission. So it's like and it takes so much work everything takes more work. It's not like just take it over, I'll do nothing. Like it's way more teaching it a whole new level. But that's such a beautiful thing is like real leadership isn't about what people do when you're there. It's what they do when you're not there. True. That really proves like what a leader is. And that's another level. And it's everyone listening, because I would hear this in my early years and be like, oh my God, start having like I'm doing stuff. It takes time. Yeah, definitely. And I'm still learning it, and that's okay.
How long you been in business?
16 years. I started in 2007.
It's crazy.
Right when the recession of 08 hit.
Yeah.
So that's why now with all this, people like, I'm like, when I started Dreamshine, Great Recession hit, everyone said, and I had to start tuning it out because had I listened to the news, the media, family that had good intentions, they were just worried I wouldn't, and you get it, you wouldn't be here. But I got to get to where you're being we were talking about football, but before that, what got you to where you were like facing, because I really want the listeners to hear this part. You weren't just facing, dude, I was maybe looking at like a year or something with my DUI. I didn't get the drugs, was dropped. And it was not the same as what you were facing. How many years prison time?
Well, it was 2 counts of armed robbery. So it was 60 years in total, especially in Florida.
60.
60. So it was basically over at that point.
At what age?
16, 17, something like that. Yeah. And this is the point where, like, growing up in the environment, not to say that I'm a product of environment or anything like that, but
it does matter, though.
It matters a bit. And on top of that, we didn't have any money growing up, obviously, right? I'm growing up in motels. But at the same time, my parents did their best that they could do.
Right.
They did their absolute best that they could do, so I'm not going to put anything on them on that. It was my decision to sell drugs. It was my decision. Listen, at the end of the day, the armed robbery charge was me robbing another person that had drugs. And it was for my benefit to sell it back.
Right.
Right. That
it's
was
not
the
like
reason.
you were innocent.
No. And for the most part, like the reason why I did it was loyalty to a friend, and then also me just wanting to be the big man, be that tough guy.
Yeah. So you were obviously being a fighter, you were fighting.
Yeah.
That's to make sure you don't run behind your meeting. But we still got like 20 minutes.
You good.
So were you fighting and stuff? Like, were you boxing. Like the badass of the group when it came?
Yeah, I've always fought. I was always the one popping off first, fighting when I was a kid. I think my first fight I was in preschool, being an idiot,
Were you angry, or was it more of like a
I think I was a little bit.
Were you?
Yeah, it was that, and then I had a chip on my shoulder. Listen, I'm obviously a white guy living in a all black neighborhood, so I always had to defend myself in some cases, or I had to prove this, at some point, along the lines of my growing up. Once I was able to do that, once I was able to become that guy that could fight or didn't take any shit from anybody, then it was lessened, right, to a degree, right?
But you got known as that, because I had like a friends that were those dudes that like had my back, luckily.
Yeah.
But like they were known. But then later on, talking to him as we got older, he was like, "Dude, Mark, sometimes like I didn't want to fight. Sometimes then I got known as." So we would go to places and people would just like see him and want to fight him because he was known as the badass. And dude, oh man, I know you've been in crazy stuff. Yeah. Watch him pin a guy down. This guy that was known as like this. We were in this little town called Grand Junction, Colorado, and it was so weird because you had the Hispanics with the crystal meth. You had cowboys with all the guns and all the craziness, like drunk shooting. It was such a weird mixture of randomness that you wouldn't expect. Yeah. But then you had like the Vatos. But dude, it was crazy stuff that was going on. And so he was like, from that part, dealing the meth. And they came in and he was known as like a badass, but my friend just had like, I don't know, man. It was like his face was just made of iron. Like he could take. So
tough, he got a chin.
Yeah. I mean, more than me, but he just pinned him down. And like I said, his head's made of iron.
Oh, he's headbutting him.
I've never seen someone like fully up, like, so many times to where the guy's face was like clay and mush, and I was like, dude, I still get sick.
Yeah, that you have to be careful.
Dude, it was gross to me. Dude. He could do. He was my friend, but dude, that was. Yeah, I was scared. I was like, dude, if he gets like, dude, he was.
Yeah, it's definitely scary.
That was another level of like his eyes went dark, and it's like he could have.
That was the one thing that I never really. It's one thing that I was, quote unquote, worried about, which is getting into an altercation and then ultimately something going wrong. Let's say I knock the kid out, and he falls and hits his head on the curb, and it's over.
It happens.
It definitely happens a lot, unfortunately. And so, like, I started to become more mindful of that. Getting older. As soon as I got into that incident, as soon as I got in trouble, and we went into the detention center as a kid, and then got direct filed as an adult, went to the county jail. At that moment, I knew I had to make a change because I knew that wasn't me. I knew that this wasn't meant for me. And so it was a choice that I made right then and there that I will never come back to this situation again. Luckily, there was no evidence. It was basically the kid saying that we robbed him for drugs.
There wasn't like, it was like his word against your word.
It was all of that. Yeah. And so there was no, any luck. Like, obviously I'm not going to rob somebody that is not a formidable opponent. In a sense,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, and I'm not proud of that.
Right.
That was the first and only time I've ever done that.
Right.
And it just so happened it got me in the worst trouble possible.
Yeah.
Right. And then after the fact,
thank God, because it scared you into changing.
Or whatever. It gave me a wake up call.
Yeah.
It gave me a wake up call. Like I wasn't nervous. I wasn't afraid. I just knew that this wasn't for me. I was sitting in the jail cell. I was sitting in the county jail, and I said to myself, yeah, what am I doing? And then from there, you know, we obviously had to fight it. I got out, and finally they gave me 5 years probation, some restitution.
Yeah.
Which is way better than what they originally tried to get me for.
60. Dude.
But they didn't find anything. They didn't find any guns. It was just, you know, hearsay.
Were your parents around much at those times, or were you kind of?
Listen, my mother was like my best friend.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? So like, she's been through it herself.
Yeah.
Right. She grew up rough. She grew up in Queens.
Okay.
And was a part of gangs and everything else. So she already knew, like, she knew the deal. So,
yeah.
But she wasn't proud of it. But as soon as her son got in trouble, she knew what to do.
Oh, that's cool.
You know. So then I remember calling her while I was in lockdown, and she was like, "Just don't say anything. Like, we're gonna get it handled." Wow. And fortunately, we got it taken care of. And then on top of that, after I left, I had to switch schools, and most of my scholarships went out the window.
I was thinking of that with a football.
They went out the window. I was able to play for Deerfield Beach High School, which
did you get a felony?
Career, I did, yeah.
So you had a felony on your record?
Still do.
Still do.
Yeah. So I don't even, you know, and it's funny because I mean, it's not funny, but full circle, I trained the guys that that arrested me. Dude,
that's why I always, whatever people believe, I would say God is orchestrating, because like, there's just no coincidences that. Yeah. Dude, that's like a success story to them too. Of like,
well, I had a conversation with one of the of the sergeants, who's actually a good friend of mine.
He didn't
even know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and the sheriff too as well. The sheriff, the major, you know, he's one of the guys that, you know, has been through circumstances himself.
That's cool.
And so he's like, no, I understand.
That's someone that should be in that position, that can relate to it, have some type of empathy.
100%. So like, you know, after that, it took me 2 years. I got off probation, didn't do anything else. I haven't been arrested since. You know, I was 17.
What about your friend? Like, did you start getting busier with other things? Because I know you were saying loyalty.
Yeah.
Because I know what that's like too. For me, I had to gradually, but it was weird because I felt this. I felt something kind of ongoing, like, this isn't me. Yeah. But what was weird is they never saw that. Both the dudes I lived with in the trailer are dead now. Like, one overdosed, one shot himself. I would have been the third. But they never really had it. Like, I would see something or hear years later, and I'm like, dude, nothing's changed there. But it was weird. I had a thing that was like, same thing too, like in my gut, like, this isn't, I can't explain exactly what, but it was like, it wasn't.
No, you just know that you're here for a higher purpose.
Yeah.
It's something intuitive.
I always try to figure when people don't get that is what.
Unfortunately, in my opinion, they weren't meant to have that higher purpose. And I think that everybody has the opportunity, but they allow themselves to get in their own way.
Of course.
And so they don't realize that, yes, you've been put on earth to do great things, but you're getting in your own way. So then, whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, Allah, whatever.
Right. There's I believe in God, but there's something.
There's a creator.
There's a creator, absolutely.
Okay, you don't want to take what I've given you and use it to your best abilities, then you're going to see the wrath of that. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's happened to the best of the people that I've grew close to in a lot of ways. And that's an unfortunate circumstance. And on top of that, it's like, what can you do? You can't really do much after that. You know, even though I try, you can't do much.
Well, by having these discussions, that's why I think of the younger me, because I was like, everyone's against me. I'm stupid. It took me showing those pictures to the judge, trying to get her to feel sorry for me. My face is beaten. This 6-year-old grown cowboy beat my 17-year-old face in when I was passed out at a drive-through in my car. Yeah. And then he left. He had prior assaults for like aggravated assault. But anyway, I was the victim, and I had my whole thing, my case, and the judge just went off on me, which was the best thing I ever needed to hear. Because she's like, I'm like, my face. She's like, forget about, like, literally, like in front of the whole, like, forget about you. Yeah. She's like, you could have killed Like you were driving blacked out all these times, doing drugs, selling drugs, driving blacked out. All your blood alcohol was so high they thought you were dead. Like when they read the report, the cops, his thing said when he saw it, they didn't think that I was in the holding cell. They thought I was in the hospital, dead or getting my stomach pumped. Damn. When they saw me in there, they're like, and the only reason I wasn't is because I was like doing coke and speed and other stuff, mixing. I was doing so many dumb things.
Damn.
And she's like, you were driving blacked out and stuff so many times. You could have hit like a mom in a minivan and wiped out a fan. Like, you're worried about your stupid face getting beat in? Yeah. Like, you keep putting yourself. Did someone force the drugs down your throat? Did someone make you black out and drink? Yeah, this guy beat the crap out of you. But you if you were sober, you think you would have been laying there passed out, and some guy, dude, and then it hit, not in that moment, but it hit me through a lot of depression, and I was like, she is so right. Yeah. And then it flipped to me being a victim to, I don't want to kill. I got more afraid of like, dude, I'm going to kill. What if I killed a mom? I was more worried about that than jail. I was worried. What if I go to jail? But it like flipped the thing of the victim mind. Yeah, like, dude, I was not a victim. More selfless than selfish. Yeah, it was totally on me. Like,
but you know what? Let's be real. Like, you're not supposed to be in this position, right? But you've taken what you've been given and superseded the expectations based upon where you were at to where you are now, right?
Yeah.
I see we're in your house. Like, I see it's immaculate, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Just so you know, if you guys listening, there's a few NBA stars that live here. There's a few great entrepreneurs, including Billy Carson, by the way, all live in the same neighborhood. And this is a guy that you just said, addicted to drugs, being an asshole, whatever the case. But you transition that, you created a great business that is obviously something that is going to benefit a lot of people. And it comes from the heart, which is important.
Yeah.
On top of that, you are successful with that. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're helping people. You're creating value. You're creating opportunity. And you did that. And you did that with the beginning stages of your life not being so great.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's a redemption story.
It is absolutely.
That should be your next book, Redemption.
I love it. I love it.
Let me get a forward on that.
You will. No, man, your book too is going to be amazing because it's a redemption story, and then there's so much else to teach of what everything. Well, we're teaching it by having the shows and everything else we do too. Yeah. But
you know that I haven't told that story really in deep detail until recently, really.
Well, I waited till
it was
7 years in with Dreamshine to Share being in jail. I was afraid of what will my clients and stuff think.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been, you can look back in some podcasts and I kind of, teetered around it and stuff. And
yeah.
Some people, I remember they were just like, there's a big gap here. And I was like, whatever. But now people have to know. Because
it's empowering, man.
Yeah. It's not like I repeated the process over and over again.
No, dude, everything you just said to me, you're a success story.
I appreciate it.
Like, no.
Not yet, though. I'm not done yet.
Well, of course not. But you're an incredible... You were facing 60 years to life. Mm-hmm. You could be a janitor with good wages, with a family and kids, totally stable, and that would be like that would be a success story from being a... But you... Dude, you then went on to play football, to fight MMA, which is just insane. Like, to people that haven't fought, dude, I'm watching that. Just to get in there and do that fight that we played the clip of is a freaking mind-blowing success to me.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And beyond that, I know what it takes to open a company from nothing. People are like, where should I get my startup? I'm like, startup? I'm like, I had a mortgage. I didn't even have any. You've got to do what you can with what you had. The first podcast I did, I didn't have a studio. I was sitting in my car.
Oh, wow.
7 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's dope, though.
But like, I'm telling everyone too, I visited, like, I didn't even know you had even more, but like the one location and what I like doing is I talk to some of your team members, and I'm always watching when people think I'm not just, and because you're the real deal, and it's just so great because we see a lot of the fake stuff. Like you were talking about our neighborhood and everything. I don't show that as much. And at times Billy's like, well, you should strategically to let people know you were in jail and where you are. And I'm like, that's true. But I also don't want to go on the other side and be like, that's the only thing that matters. But it is a weird thing to get over, to be like, it's okay to like have that success and not to feel the weird, I don't know. It sounds stupid.
Well, because you're I'm the same way, because you were worried about what people were going to judge you on.
Yeah.
Don't judge me on my past, judge me on my present.
Yeah.
Judge me on what I've done to create a better life for myself.
Yeah.
As opposed to what I've done in the past when I was a kid, I didn't know any better, you know? And that's really what it comes down to. It's like, obviously I'm not the same person. I mean, I'm the same human being, but my personality, my way of thinking, you know, the process of what I do on a daily basis is different.
Right.
You know, and then on top of that, the transition of getting out of that circumstances, it takes a special individual to start from nothing to grow into something. Yeah.
Not only that, it's really inspiring. This is what this is all about, to give people hope. You're facing 60. You come, because people that are in these, whatever environment they're in, when they're like, I can't get through this. It's like, wait, Phil did. He came from not an easy, super nice, like rich up, and you fought through it. You were facing prison for 60 years. You've built up a company, and dude, you've got people. I was watching your team members and stuff that not only do they respect you, but I look at people and I ask them about what they do, and their eyes like light up. And oh God, what was her name, dude? She was really cool. You know, she was cool.
She's a 3-time world champion.
She's a badass.
3-time world champion.
I was like, I got to have her on. She was telling me some of her story, and I'm like, dude, she could crush me. But she was all really passionate about like what you guys, and I was like, oh, I saw the police officers on the, I'm like, what do you guys? And she wasn't like, she was like, yeah, it's really cool. And what's cool is like, you're using your purpose, and it's bringing out the light in other people's purpose. It allows, it's like you shine, lets other people shine.
Yeah.
When you could have been the dude from prison, but
or I could have been doing it alone. I could have just did it alone, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to bring people with me. And even in some cases, it could be, I don't want to say a detriment, but it's not hinders the progress, but slows the progress a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we have to bring these people up. And so, but that's okay, because you've seen it firsthand. When you speak to these people, you know, they're like, I love doing this. And that's great for me. And I have to make sure that I'm watching over them and allowing them to grow themselves, giving them the guidance. And that's where it comes. That's how you become a great leader. That's what it takes to become a great leader. It's giving them the opportunities to be great themselves.
Giving them the opportunities, and then holding accountable when at times they're not.
Yeah, that's the process.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, Phil, as always, with any amazing guests I have, we could do an 8-hour show. There's so much more, but it's just really cool for people to know. And I'll see if we can edit any clips too, or come down there and get more. Plus, we'll do a show there. Yeah. But seeing your place, because that's what I love, is like, with the shows, being able to go when people are who they really say they are. You've got a business. I watch your team. I've seen some stuff you guys are doing. I watch the show, the setup. You guys, you're doing it all. Yep. We both know my man Billy. He's not going to waste his time having some 80. You know what I mean? Like solid person. Like you're kicking butt and not like literally as a fighter, and with what you're doing, and you're helping people.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And I respect the hell out of that. Thank you for taking the time to come out here. Everyone check. So we'll have all the links and stuff in there, but is it your Instagram, YouTube? Is it all? Is it your Instagram with IG I have? It's at, what is it again?
Just Daru Strong.
Okay.
At Daru Strong.
Daru Strong.
Yep.
What about your YouTube channel?
YouTube, you could just Phil Daru Strong.
Okay.
Yeah, you search for it.
We'll pop all that in there. And then your gym, DSP Gym. And so if people that live here locally, dude, I got a guy that started this amazing barbershop I have to introduce you to. Who knows? Patrick Bet David.
Oh yeah, nice. I'm actually going to be training his security guard.
I was just going to say that would be a cool other version of clientele. He's been mentoring my dude that was on my show with his barbershop.
Nice.
We did the clip and Pat was talking. He's someone that will be cool to meet.
Yeah,
respect for him.
For sure.
I could see him being like in the future, you doing a specialized class.
Yeah, absolutely.
For like high end, challenging. That's just kind of where my brain's going
now.
too.
Yeah, I got about 4 big COs that I'm working with right now too as well.
I love that.
Just with the nutrition side, the metabolic hormonal side too as well, because that's a big issue with nutrition and everything else from that perspective because of stress and everything else. But yeah, and then the training, right?
It's so important. Wow. Hey man, and I look forward to seeing you on Joe Rogan in the future because he's already talking about you, dude. I bet he would love having a great conversation with you.
Yeah, we'll see.
Or he'll be on your show one day.
Yeah, we can get him on mine. That's pretty easy. I know Joe likes to do that, but we'll see what's up. We're supposed to do it last year, so we'll see.
Oh, really? That's cool, man. Dude, seems like another person. So I'm sure he's genuinely exactly what you see behind the scenes as he is.
Yeah, definitely. Down to earth guy, and that would be a good conversation on top of the fact that we would be able to train a little bit too as well.
Yeah. You think you'd take him down?
I think I took him. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
What are you?
I'm a brown belt. Actually, you know what? No. I'll say this. I think I could take him down, but after that, I'm standing right back up. He's going to submit me. I'm good.
So on the ground, you think that's where
he's best at. He's black belt in jiu-jitsu.
I saw like a video of some of the kicks or something.
He can kick. Oh yeah, he can kick his ass off. But we're not. I mean, if we spar, I'm not trying to get kicked by that. That spinning back kick is lethal, man. He did Taekwondo, I believe. So
that would, dude. People don't realize the force and like the bone in your foot. That would suck.
I think he's over 50-something years old, but he still can crack, man.
That's cool. How old are you?
34.
34.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Hey, we'll set it up. We'll set the fight up between you and Joe, man. We could have it here in Miami.
I'm good. Joe don't want it. Joe,
I'm just joking.
Me and Joe are both out of the game. So
no, you guys don't need to do all that. But no, I love it, man. So thank you so much, Phil. Everyone, follow him, check him out. We'll have all the links. And never settle, never give up, and keep elevating beyond. Boom.